Welcome to the Widener Law Commonwealth podcast, the Final Deposition. Today we're joined by Jason Berger. He is an entertainment attorney at Lewis Brisbois. He represents clients across music, film and television, digital media, fashion and art industries. His work includes negotiating record agreements, publishing deals, and distributing contracts. He's been recognized as Pennsylvania's super lawyer multiple years, and has also been named a rising star in the entertainment law, as well as recognized on Billboard 2025 top music lawyers. So, Jason, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
I'm your host, Enzo Fetsko, and we're also joined by Dean Cummings today as well. So to start the podcast off, Jason, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself and where you came from and your career?
Sure. Thanks again for having me. And Dean, appreciate the invite. I'm a partner at Lewis Brisbois. We're I think the 8th largest firm in the country presently. And I work out of their Philadelphia office, although lawyers on the team are based in Los Angeles, Nashville, South Florida, and New York City. We have a full service law firm. However, we have a specialized group of about 23 lawyers that really focus on the entertainment industries, being music, television, and film, literary rights, and some of the ancillary stuff. We have a few lawyers that handle sports, transactional matters, and litigation. So I think a pretty good group in terms of providing the representation to talent. At least that's what I focus on. I pretty much these days really have a music practice. The beauty of working at a big law firm and having amazing people pretty much are great at whatever you can think of is being able to refer that work, keep the relationship and manage the relationship with the client, but ultimately rely on experts in whatever field that is. And I feel much better about the client being well represented than me trying to dabble in something that hasn't become what I focus on.
Yeah.
What else can I tell you? I'm originally from the Trenton, New Jersey area. Went to TCNJ for undergrad and Widener Law to start my law school career. Ultimately graduated from Rutgers and been a practicing attorney since.
Nice. So could you tell us a little bit how you got started in the entertainment law industry, where you started after law school, and go from there.
Yeah, for a variety of reasons, I kind of got into civil litigation after law school. Had some really unique experiences in a clerkship. Ultimately got a job with a great lawyer and a great firm to learn the ropes in that area. Did that for about 8 or 9 years and became a little dissatisfied with the outcome of just litigation in general, not super specific to like the nature of the work we did at that firm, but more so fighting with people and taking a step back and kind of characterizing it for what it is. I didn't have the fight. I wasn't passionate about the fight. To me, sitting across and even butting heads with another lawyer in negotiating an agreement of some nature and ultimately getting that agreement closed and the client shaking hands after and go off and make hopefully lots of money together, that was a much more favorable result and a much more fulfilling result for me being a small part of that process. So I took about 5 years and continued to litigate cases to pay the bills and ultimately spent a lot of time, nights and weekends and after hours, learning entertainment law and whatever the topic would be at that point. I've handled some TV and film stuff, helped some authors and publishers in the book space, dabbled with a few sports related matters. And I kind of had to, I wasn't an expert at anything by any stretch of the imagination. And because of where I was in Philadelphia, advertising more in a broad sense to just get as much business as I could was the way to start out. And since then, I've really been narrowing my expertise in the music space and even more so being a representative of talent as opposed to we have companies as clients, but not the big major record labels or major publishers. There'd be too many conflicts of interest. But I've always enjoyed representing the talent, the ones creating the magic and helping figure out a strategy to make sure that they're protected and ultimately they're maximizing all the opportunities that they can to make a living out of it.
Yeah, nice.
I wanted to thank you, Jason, for being here. I'm proud of a couple of things. One is, Enzo, thanks for letting me crash this episode of the Final Deposition. As the Dean of the Law School, I'm proud that we found your talent, that Widener Law is the place that said, yes, come join us. I have a very strong belief that we are a law school that helps people make their dreams come true.
Yeah.
And so I'm really proud of the fact that
more so we'll give you a shot. As opposed to so it was, but I, as I talked in the class earlier, I feel like that growth process as a professional and even a human being and like knowing that was my only opportunity to pursue a career as a lawyer, back up a student at a law school. I didn't really feel like it was an option. It was just get it done, and how do I get what I needed to on those summer tests to be able to get into the first year class. And I can't tell you how much confidence that gave me and the lessons that I learned like professionally and personally from that experience. So never something I'll ever forget in terms of that opportunity.
Love that. Jason was just describing our trial admissions program, TAP, which is how he found his way into law school and into this fantastic career. So I love that. The second thing that I wanted to mention is that I have always found in my opportunity, and I've done some entertainment law related work and some sports related work, is that you're ultimately looking for unique talent. You're looking for a artist that's just different, that's going to make a difference. And having been involved in some R&B and hip hop historically, how do you know when someone's going to have that unique vocal talent or
it's a great question. And sometimes I feel like as an artist, the vocal part's probably the easiest because you can tell if someone's singing a tune, if they're on key and pitch, but it's something that I've been refining for 12 plus years. I wasn't great at it at first, but what I did was I took every meeting. I listened to every record that people sent me and really started to figure out what were the characteristics that attracted people, whether it was consumers or people at record companies or publishing companies. And over the years of doing that, I've become somewhat of an A&R in my own right. And now it's different because it's not an A&R where I want you to sign you to my law firm, but in some respects it is, because usually early on in artists' careers or any talent, there's not a lot of money to be made. And in more so, most can't afford what people have come to understand as traditional legal fees and hourly rates.
That's right.
So for me, understanding and getting pretty decent at recognizing talent and the potential, I was kind of forced to minimize the risk that I was taking in spending hours and hours on something and to not have that upside. I still do it regularly where it's not feasible to pay our fees up front. And I'll assess that. And if I feel like I can help get the artist to a certain point and get them a record deal where the record company will cover a handsome fee, that may be 6 months of work. But I have to factor in what's going to take to get to that point, how many approximate legal hours, how much of my staff am I going to have to dedicate to X, Y, and Z, and it all goes into the equation. So after swinging and striking out a number of times early, especially going through that analysis and picking the wrong ones, I've gotten a lot better, especially when I realized that the better I was at it, the better financially my law practice could be.
I love that. Two things really quickly. One is my experience has been, and I'm sure yours as well, that you listen to a lot of folks that think they've got it and they don't.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes hard to hear folks that have been told by their parents that they're a great, singer or rapper or something, and you're like, oh man, this is hard to hear. So you wade through a lot. Tell us what it's like when you hear that dynamite, where you're like, whoa.
I always felt like I had something, even before I ever thought of exploring this as a way to, as a profession. Just knew a hit, even as a kid. Like would hear a song, and in high school, it started to thought about maybe I should be an A&R because there was something about a catchy hook or whatever it was that drew me to a specific song that I could tell my friends or family, watch this song go or watch this artist. And a lot of time, was I right all the time? Of course not. But a lot of times I was right. And it's just something that I hear, it's not really learned. It's not anything that I spend a lot of my professional time on, although I've gotten better at it with experience. Kind of just know. And I'll be honest, especially nowadays, it's not always about the song. I'll recognize a star when they walk through my door. A lot of times even before they open their mouth. But by the end of an hour-long meeting, I can just tell somebody that has that it factor, where whatever they're going to do with the right guidance and the right resources, they're going to be successful. That's what I look for in new clients and even some, the reassessing some older ones.
What does that feel like when you see them walk in your door and in an hour you're like, that's a story?
It feels great because I see the potential, not for me or the firm financially, but I see the potential that they have. And I'm fairly confident these days that there's a lot of value that I can add to these young men and women's lives and careers to help get them there. And that's what gets me excited when I hear that song or meet somebody for the first time and know that they have something, like the potential of what we could all be doing together 2-3 years from now.
I'm going to have to drop a footnote here and just say, how exciting is that, what Jason just described? Like knowing that you've got a star sitting there and that you're going to be able to leverage your skill and your talent to bring them to their dreams. Like that's what lawyers do, is we have an opportunity to help people's dreams come true just by being able to navigate the landscape of the contracts and the record labels and the opportunities. And you just said it's not about what it's going to bring to me or the firm. It's about this human being that has unique talent that I'm going to be able to unleash.
Yeah. And another thing that I've learned is usually the financial benefits follow that course. It's not saying anything out of turn where the client does well. In most instances, I do well. And it's certainly something that is important, but I don't think drives or should drive decisions, especially when it comes to that artist's career. But I find that the hard, it sounds crazy, right? The harder you work, the more disciplined you are, the more relationships that you can nurture that are important, the financial benefits follow it, but you can't really do it for the money.
So still sticking to that subject a little bit, recognizing talent, would you say with social media now that it makes it easier to recognize talent? And then I have a second part to that question. Has the industry changed where people can go through their own avenues on social media, posting something on TikTok and posting, a song on TikTok and Instagram and all these social media platforms, and they can kind of do their own thing rather than a label helping them out and backing them?
Yeah, I think the environment today is definitely different, and that process of scouting talent has significantly changed with the way that music is consumed today and how it's marketed through a variety of social media and other platforms. A lot of people frown on that. I don't think we're in a position to make a decision yet, because it's continuing to evolve kind of daily. But it's definitely taking a step back. The biggest change that I see is it's less about the talent and it's more about the data, because there's so many metrics nowadays that it's so much easier to plug those numbers into whatever equation the labels or the publishers have and try to get some criteria where, all right, let's bank on this artist or this writer and we have some chance of being successful. I know most of my clients get signed without ever performing live, without an A&R showing up to a show and really getting that it factor from seeing them on stage. Rarely happens. And I think, there's something to be said for how it used to be, or how some A&Rs still work. Because that's just it. It's starting an important relationship, and to see them in that light and to see the potential again when you see that I think there's a lot to be said about long-term success when an artist is discovered that way. Is it harder, easier? I don't know. There's a lot that social media has to offer. I think those tools are amazing. I think that those resources are things artists even 15, 20 years ago did not have at their disposal. It's free marketing. And the better you know how those platforms work and you can leverage it, the better you'll be at marketing whatever it is you're marketing. So I think in that instance, it's changed quite a bit, but it'll continue to evolve. I wouldn't have thought even 5 years ago that how many artists are discovered and signed on TikTok based on their TikTok platform alone, and there's new ones popping up every day. But I think understanding that space, if you're in the position I'm in, or other seats around the table, if you will, managers and A&Rs and executives, I think they're all great tools to rely on. I don't think it can be the end all be all, or should be.
Yeah.
Does it answer both, or was it?
No, that answer
Okay.
both. I was wondering how that worked with social media, if that's the easiest way for people to get recognized nowadays. Because obviously people are posting stuff daily and your engagement is driving your popularity. And if I don't know if that how easy it is for people to become big hits off of.
You can at least get the content out there.
Yeah.
Who sees it is really up to your reach, if you will.
Yeah.
That's half the battle. But there's, again, thinking about data, all these companies have teams of people that are scouring it daily. And it doesn't need to be 1 million streams to get on the radar of a potential partner to help you with the next step of your career as an artist.
Well, if I had a good voice, maybe I would post something on TikTok.
see if you'd get discovered.
Yeah, I don't think I do, so I probably would stay away from that.
I find there is success in having a fan base at something, even if it's not music, and transitioning to the music space. Like I've worked with some folks that had TV and film experience, like acting experience, and didn't do crazy where they're going to do that the rest of their life, but did good enough to get a couple 100,000 followers, like on one of the platforms, and to take them, and if they're good, and to be able to transfer that audience to focus on the music career is pretty invaluable. Because you think you have those off rip where everybody else who's just starting as an artist has to build that fan base, like fan by fan. So I've had some really cool experiences representing artists that come from a different industry or from a different line before they got into music. And it's much easier to have that built-in fan base. Does it always translate? No. But it's a lot easier to get the set off that you need to get on people's radars if you already have a group of people that have the eyes and ears on you.
Yeah. Also, with the industry changing, I was wondering now AI is pretty big. It's growing over the past couple of years. So are there legal implications? I see on social media as well, people making songs with whether it's Drake's voice over top of it, it's not actually him singing. What are some of the legal implications? Like what do you do when stuff like that happens?
Yeah, I think first off, recognizing how amazing the technology is something very important because it's here to stay. It certainly wasn't well received in the music industry in the beginning, primarily because of example like you just gave. There's a number of different pieces of legislation, both state and federal, that have been implemented since then to give artists like Drake protections that they may not have otherwise had just with the Copyright Act. In instances where it's their name and likeness being exploited in that fashion without their approval. And I think it's pretty well settled at the time. The technology will continue to evolve and new legal issues will ultimately arise and be dealt with, but it's pretty much straight copyright law. And the Copyright Office, I think it was last January, issued an opinion that clarified a lot of questions that we as practitioners have with the way the technology was being used, at least initially. And I think that satisfied most of us in terms of having some guidance of how to protect our clients on both sides of it, not just the ones that their name and likeness is being used, but the ones that are creating it. Because I think it's going to become widely acceptable in a variety of different contexts and uses. And it probably is like auto-tune. When auto-tune was first introduced in the music industry, it was frowned upon, especially by producers and vocalists that were so critical of the mics and the equipment and how perfect it sounded. And nowadays, you couldn't really find a song out that doesn't have that employed in some respect. So I think it'll continue to evolve, but it's amazing what it can do. And I think if people use it responsibly and ethically, it's going to be something that you will all be surprised of its uses in the future.
Yeah.
Do you, Jason, have some favorite examples of artists that you've worked with or experiences that you've had where you kind of helped discover somebody or, Grammy Award? I'm sure you've been to the Grammys.
Sure.
So what are some of your favorite experience you've had in finding talent, nurturing talent, seeing your talent awarded?
I think it's being along for the ride. So a lot of times, some of those moments that stand out to me as I look back, it's because you were a part of the development and you knew that person and were helping them in however way you could. A lot of times it's not early on, it's not just being the lawyer. It could wear a variety of hats, but watching them work really hard and become and see that success. I'll give an example. I work with an amazing young man from Philadelphia originally. He goes by Friday. He's an R&B singer and one of the biggest right now in probably the world. Great person, amazing talent. Been working with him for a long time, since the beginning, where he had legal work that he needed help with. And to go up last year to watch him sell out Madison Square Garden and to be a part of that. And the team gave him what was just turned a platinum record, the plaque in the dressing room after the show. Like, those are things that you'll never forget. And I think good that you do that. I do those things, that you travel when it's for the right opportunity, when you go out to that dinner at 10 o'clock at night, when you wake up and get the kids to school in the morning, and just like the in-person aspect of this business, since it's come back post-COVID, I think has even more so importance in just building and continuing to grow relationships.
Can you talk, Jason, a little bit about how I talk all the time as the dean of Widener Law Commonwealth about, dream chasing and dream making. Can you talk a little bit about your opportunity to have pursued your own dreams, and then to be a part of, as a lawyer, helping people's dreams come to fruition?
Yeah, I mean, like I talked about in the class leading up to this, I think anytime you can do something that you're very passionate about, and to be able to feed your family and enjoy the fruits of that is something very special. So for me, it was not a traditional path. It was a little bit non-traditional. Did some things before I started to work on Entertainment Matters, and it was a lot of work. And I think it makes it even more special when you put that time in, and ultimately you're able to do something that you dreamt about. When I first thought of the idea, it's great. I wouldn't think of any other way to earn a living. But I think in part it's so special and important to me because I'm able to help my clients live out their dreams. And again, it's non-traditional. It's not like legal work that most lawyers are used to. It's a lot of patience. It's a lot of hand-holding in some instances. It's playing different roles if you're comfortable and can be effective at it, and going over and above to where you're doing things you're not necessarily getting paid for all the time. But the outcome, just to be able to me, there's something very special in that, to be able to work with someone that has a talent and to be able to have them, help them turn that into a way to earn a living, and a lot of times a very good one, is just, it's in my nature. Like helping people like that way is very special.
It is.
Yeah.
I don't want my students at Widener Law Commonwealth to dig too deep, but I attempted as a much younger man to actually be an artist, to actually do the creating of music and the rapping and
what was your
that
talent,
type of
Dean?
thing. It was not that. it was not. I learned at an early age, maybe like you, Jason. I learned that I could help others make their dreams come true. Yeah, rather than my being on stage rapping or singing. I could maybe do a little bit of what you talked about, recognize talent and nurture it, and then later represent it. So that's what I think is extraordinarily special about what you're doing.
Yeah, but now you breed it. I mean, you have a whole school's worth of really talented people in a different context, of course. But I like doing the same thing with people that I've grown fond of in the business and helping them, even in a professional context, develop and be great at their role, whatever that is. It's just, I guess, inherent in my nature.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah.
So you talked about your client Friday and selling out Madison Square Garden, and you came from more of a traditional legal setting, working in litigation before. So is there something that shocked you about that pace and the culture of representing a client that's in R&B industry or hip hop or whatever industry they may be in?
No shock. It's very comfortable for me. I mean, I grew up in a city. All my friends it was a very diverse neighborhood. I never really looked at the color of people's skin or the accent and I think it was a great way to grow up, because as I approached my professional career, never even came into my purview to make decisions, especially. So in that respect, that's the business. That's the genres that I work in. And I still hold true to those values. And, it's comfortable for me. And I think that's what makes me effective in my relationships with my clients, is just the personal nature of it and being able to talk to someone and being able to listen. Yeah. That's a big thing that a lot of people have trouble understanding, is sometimes you need to just listen and you don't have an answer. But, playing therapist every once in a while doesn't hurt, especially when someone really needs that. And you're the one they look to help with it.
Yeah. it seems like you're pretty close with a lot of your clients. So is there a way you blur the line between a friendship or more of a business relationship?
I don't think blur it. I think, it's just how I operate. I think that I meet people, they usually become clients first. Sometimes it's happened in reverse order where what I found a lot of times is if I have my eye on an artist and they've already had some level of success and been with the big law firms, other law firms with good lawyers, I think there's something sneaky about like, hey, come work with us, especially at a higher level. So the way I've approached that is I'll form a friendship first. I'll figure out a way, who knows that person, or usually there's already some interaction or some relationship because they're on my radar to begin with. But ultimately, I become a friend first and I help them however I can. It may be getting them beats from a producer that I work with outside of the law practice. And one sticks out in my mind. I was managing an amazing engineer, and this artist that I really wanted to work with and kind of grew a relationship with as friends needed a new engineer. And to me, that was like the easiest thing, connecting those dots. But that was my way in at the time. He was with a pretty good lawyer. I knew it wasn't peaches and cream over there, but wasn't going to also like poach him, as we say in this business. And it's just like when that happens, you're sitting at a table at dinner one night and it's like, why aren't we working together? Like, let's fix this. And that's usually like the approach I've had with bigger artists or bigger producers that already have some damage from lawyers, especially in this business. And kind of do it that way, But most, I'll be honest, a handful of my clients, a good handful, I consider family. Yeah. It's just how I was raised. It's how I deal with people that you deal with so regularly. You talk to these people every day sometimes, you know what I mean? And it's just kind of second nature. There's a lot of trust involved, and that takes years sometimes to get it to a great place, but there's nothing better to be able to do what I do with somebody that I consider a friend and in some instances even family at this point.
Yeah. I think that's what's so like special about entertainment law and sports law and stuff. You can kind of take those friendships and build it into a business relationship, and like you said, a lot of it has to do with trust, and if they can trust you, then you have a client for life and a friend, family for life. So that's, I do like that you said that.
Absolutely.
Another thing, kind of talking about, you've now worked with some big producers that have worked with top hip hop artists and rap and R&B. I don't know if you want to talk about any of those artist producers that you worked with, and like what your relationships are like with them. I know I looked up, you worked with Yeet and Drake and Lil Uzi, so if you could maybe elaborate on some of those relationships.
It was something that kind of got to even specialize even further, right? Initially, it was something that I kind of got thrown into, where initially the clients that had a lot of business for us, they needed lawyer help, were producers. That there's a lot of paperwork in that, if you will, and when I came up and started this, some of my earliest clients were producing music for Lil Uzi Vert. Okay. And there was a group of guys, and myself and some of the team that they had made it more than just one producer, and nowadays you hear all the time of producer collectives, a group of guys that kind of do it together and maybe brand themselves. Like, we were kind of the first ones that did that. And out of that came a lot of amazing music and spawned careers of these guys that have now gone off and worked with everybody under the sun. Yeah. That's Working on Dying is the name of the producer collective. Okay. That they put together and did a lot of that underground sound, I think is the best way to describe it.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like that was really important for hip hop music in particular, because it created the sound of what you hear now with the Yeats and the Playboy Cardis and the artists that you talk to your mom and dad you're never going to hear of them. So it's like levels to this, but to, people our age, they're the biggest artists out there. The numbers that these guys are doing is unbelievable. And all that sound, I think, really started with that era in Uzi's early music and the crunchy nature of the beats. And to the guys that we were working with that kind of architect that, I think created something so special that I can only, in my experience, relate it to the neo soul movement in Philadelphia in the 90s and 2000s, where there was a group of producers worked with the artists that you think of when you think of that era of music, the Jill Scotts, the Music Soul Childs, the Erykah Badu's, and that whole sound. And that's something that was bigger than any one of those artists. That's something that they created a sound that is still to this day used across R&B music, and came from Philadelphia and was very special. And like what these group of guys did then in figuring it out on their own, I don't think it was super intentional, but at the end of the day, to create a sound that younger artists now are picking up and is really their entire catalog, I think was pretty special. Yeah. So it wasn't necessarily me to tell them which notes to play or how the music should sound, but it was kind of my responsibility, at least in part, to figure out the business between those guys, the business, how we would deal with the artists when it comes time to clearing music, the business of getting them all published, and kind of bringing that together cohesively from a business perspective. And since then, a lot of the people that know I was involved and helped with that side of it, who are now trying to organize and doing it their own, my phone rings because it was like, I help those guys. You should be able to help us. So I think the group of, it just got to be that we were the producers' lawyers. And a lot of our early success was just the volume of producers we represented versus like having that big or a couple of big artists, which is a whole different kind of variety of work,
So I've got two final questions, and then I'll have Enzo hit the last one.
Okay.
This question is rooted in some of the scholarship that I've engaged in writing as a law professor, where I've kind of infused hip hop and the law together in, I think, really interesting ways. So I wanted to talk about Meek Mill for a minute. I wrote an article called Meek Mill's Trauma, and I sort of introduced the idea of adverse childhood experiences as experienced in the hood or the ghetto that Meek Mill grew up in. And on his championships record in 2018, he has a song called Trauma, where he just sort of describes what it's like to grow up in circumstances where, you're pretty desperate, hungry, violence, being surrounded by. And one of the things that I believe that I wanted to get your take on is that music can be deeply personal and transformative. And from Meek Mill's perspective in this Trauma record, he talks about bullet holes in the lockers at his school. He talks about being hungry and desperate. He talks about, blood flowing on the streets, that he grew up in. And what I do in that article is I talk about adverse childhood experiences, like what impacts children. And research has shown that someone that experiences 6 or more ACEs, as they're called, adverse childhood experiences, has a demonstrated life expectancy that's 20 years less than someone that didn't experience this childhood trauma.
Couldn't agree with that more.
And so I was hoping to sort of get your perspective on music, hip hop in particular, but music in general as transformative and really being able to bring reality to the ears of its listeners. I think that hip hop has changed the world.
100%. And I think the songwriting and to be able to share those experiences in an artistic way is almost like therapy, because it's needed. There's no question that growing up in that kind of environment is going to predispose you to certain things and to think a certain way. And potentially, if you do get out, leave with a significant amount of trauma that needs to be, rehabilitated, so to speak. And the fact that a lot of our clients and friends are able to take that energy and go in the studio and to write a song about those experiences and get those things off their chests as a way to deal with it is amazing to me. Changes lives. But just songwriting in general, I mean, that's what it is, right? It's people's own experiences and putting it out in a way that other people would like to hear it, but it's storytelling. And I think that's what makes it so engaging with the fan, is like people hear that and they say, oh, I can relate to it. And then they're inspirations to people that are just doing their 9 to 5 or whatever it is. So I think it's an amazing tool. I think that phenomena you mentioned is real. I think that it's impossible to ignore that coming from those environments, you're less likely to live a full lifespan, like you said. I never thought that being a lawyer, I'd have to go to so many funerals. And, losing a lot of, again, people that were more than just clients, friends, because of some stupid gun violence. I never thought I'd have to deal with that in a professional context where, at least started out wearing a suit to the office. And it's just something that I've had to deal with in my own right, and how are you expected to deal with that and wake up to that phone call and be on a Zoom meeting at 12 o'clock, and people don't appreciate it, but working through those issues and understanding and trying to help younger artists, let them know that there's another way. And for sure, you have certain limitations based on the family you're born into and where you live and things like that. But a lot of people don't appreciate there's an ability to get out of that. And it may be hard and it may be challenging and it may be costly, whatever those factors are. But to be able to utilize those talents to escape, if you will, an upbringing like that is I think important.
Yeah. I love all of that, Jason. Jason, my last question is for someone like young Enzo here, who may want to be an entertainment lawyer or, wants to reach a pinnacle of his profession that I feel like you have reached. What is the pathway? What's the best advice for someone like Enzo or other students that really, see themselves as wanting to be transformative in the space that you have become?
Bet on yourself is a big part of it. And, I think I mentioned in the class, there's a number of experiences that I had from the TAP program to a lot of milestones that I've hit just by believing in myself and taking on some risk, and I think another piece of advice, which I also gave earlier, was don't be too hard on yourself. Things and circumstances change, and what you do when you jump out of school after you pass the bar may not be what you want to do 10 years after. And that's cool. It's good. And as long as you do it and make a transition, however that looks to you, with intent and with purpose and well-reasoned, I think betting on yourself is probably the best advice that I could give. What I'll add to it is not just a play on your championships before, but believe in yourself, and I think believing in yourself means taking risks to a certain extent. And I tell a lot of my clients and especially early, like young ones, that there's one characteristic that everybody, regardless of the hat you wear, has, who has seen success in this business. And it's the ability to have your life together to the point where for the right opportunity, you can drop what you're doing and head to the airport to catch a flight. Whether that's for a meeting, whether that's for whatever it is, if you feel that that's the right opportunity, have everything together. And that becomes more challenging as life does life, right? And you have a family, and there's a lot going on at this point. But I'll still very proud of myself for the fact that at a couple hours notice, I can be out of here for the right opportunity. Not even, I'm probably the last on the totem pole that will benefit from following that rule, but creatives especially, things happen so fast, and to be able to have that together and like getting on that flight is betting on yourself to be able to pursue and chase your dreams, as Meek said, really important.
Love that.
Yeah. Well, I had two questions. Dean Cummings, you took my one. I was going to ask about, what advice would you give to somebody wanting to start out diving into entertainment law, which you covered. My final question then to wrap up the podcast will be, so you're at the top of, entertainment law. You were on Billboard top 25. What's one goal you still have yet to achieve? What's next for you?
That's a good question. I think probably I really have two. I think next steps would be as well supported as I feel by Lewis Brisbois. The entrepreneurial itch is needing to be scratched, and the itch gets more and more by the year. So again, no plans, or at the end of the day, I think at some point I'll probably need to start my own practice and hang a shingle and just to get that itch out, just to do it my way. There's still things that go on at any law firm, but at a big one in particular where it may take you a few days or a couple weeks even to get, let's say, a marketing expense approved. And I feel good enough about the decisions that I'm making these days where I know if that's the right spend of money, and I treat it like it's mine, and I wouldn't want to, waste money, but I feel like I want to just pull those triggers versus going through all those hoops at some point. And like I said, they're great and very supportive. So maybe sometime down the road, I'll think about that. I also, it gets my blood pumping to do stuff outside of practicing law. Like maybe that's artist management. Maybe that's starting a label, starting a publishing company, maybe doing all of it. I feel like at some point I could see myself doing that. Who knows? We'll see.
You got a label name in mind?
No. That'll be the last of it.
Well,
do I have a line of credit is probably the better first accent.
Well, Jason, we appreciate you coming on and doing our podcast with us. You had some great advice and some great answers to our questions. So yeah, we appreciate it. Thank you. Of course.
I really appreciate you guys having me. Anytime.
This is the Final Deposition.
And I'm your host, Enzo Fetsko. And thank you, Jason Berger, for joining us today, and Dean Cummings.